This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the battle continues on the ground.
Yes, we are in total control of the whole area, but it's not cleared. That means we have to clear one step at a time, no? House to house.
With lawmakers divided over the martial law issue.
Malinaw na magiging diktador na si Pangulong Duterte. Isinantabi na ang konstitusyon, isinantabi na ang batas.
Even if the situation is localized, you have to make sure that there are control measures.
And as the gunfight in Marawi rages on, will both houses of Congress convene for a joint session? House Committee on National Defense Vice Chairman Ruffy Biazon joins us live. And later, air travel can be stressful, but these dogs are here to the rescue. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. President Rodrigo Duterte says that he will only end martial law in Mindanao if the military tells him the region is safe from terror threats. But as the quest for long-lasting peace in the South drags on, lawmakers debate on whether or not there is a need for them to convene as misgivings over military rule in Mindanao arise. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have with us House Committee on National Defense and Security Vice Chairman, Congressman Ruffy Biazon. Congressman, thank you again for being here.
Yes, good morning, Pinky. Thank you for inviting me.
So the House convened as a committee of the whole?
Yes, tomorrow, Wednesday morning, the House of Representatives will be gathering as a committee of the whole, meaning to say all members of the House are included in the committee.
And what is the significance of this?
Well, this is when the executive department will present to us its justification for the imposition of martial law. And of course, congressmen will listen to them. We will be asking questions. And if in our assessment there is no basis for martial law, then we can probably initiate a move to revoke it.
So all the congressmen are expected to listen to the assessment of the top military and police units of the government to give you a situation of what is going on in Marawi?
Yes, because as of now, individual members of Congress, what we know is basically the same as what the public knows. No? We just get it from news reports, what we read on the internet. So it's best for us to get first-hand accounts from the persons involved and give us the opportunity to ask questions. Of course, we don't just listen to what they will say. We have to ask questions to clarify things.
What time is this going to happen?
It's scheduled at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
9 a.m. Is it going to be in executive session? Because there was also a comment raised by one of the congressmen, I believe yesterday, that was it Congressman Rudy Fariñas who wanted it in executive session, and another congressman or congressmen were saying that's not fair because the public also has the right to know?
I would be agreeing to the position that the public has a right to know. I'm hoping that the Committee of the Whole will meet in open session, but we of course reserve the right to go into executive session if the officials say that what they're going to reveal to us involves national security.
So
but by default, I would rather that it's in open session.
But has it been decided that it's going to be in open session, or is it going to be in executive session?
From what I heard in the explanation of the majority floor leader last night, he would also be open to doing a procedure where we leave it to the executive department officials to say if what their statements will be, if it should be under executive session.
If it should be covered, yes. Yeah, with a congressman coming into executive session. Actually, you don't really go into executive session. It's the media that actually, yung media ang aalisin, di ba? Hindi katulad sa Senado, yung mga senador aalis, they're gonna go into executive session. This time, if you go on executive session, it's the media that has to leave the premises. All right. Over and above that, though, Congressman, a lot of issues the declaration of martial law? Is it justified? And must Congress, both houses of Congress, convene to look into this? And must there be a vote to affirm it, or is there a vote to reject it? But before we go into that, let's just bring this in, because senators are going to also tackle a resolution on martial law in Mindanao. That's after security officials discussed with the senators the situation in Marawi and Mindanao Monday. Minority senators also, they filed a resolution to convene Congress in joint session to deliberate on martial law. So the Makabayan bloc now is filing a similar resolution. Let's go to Joyce Ilas for an update on this. Joyce, go ahead.
Pinky, the Makabayan bloc believes that under the Constitution, a joint session is required to discuss the President's declaration of martial law in Mindanao. At 10:15 in the morning today, the 7-man militant bloc is expected to file a resolution calling for a joint session to discuss the martial law declaration. The Makabayan bloc earlier said that they are against the martial law declaration because they believe that it will only result to human rights abuses, especially because they claim that those who will lead this have alleged history of human rights abuses, such as AFP Chief of Staff General Eduardo Año. Now, during the plenary session Monday night, the House of Representatives agreed to be constituted into a committee of the whole on Wednesday morning to discuss the martial law declaration. Now, the House leadership wants cabinet members and government security leaders to brief lawmakers why there is a need for such proclamation. But as Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Pino, also a member of the Makabayan bloc, opposed this, saying that under the rules, only bills and resolutions can be taken up by the Committee of the Whole, and the President's martial law declaration does not fall under these categories. But Majority Leader Rudy Fariñas said that the chairman of the Rules of Committee is sponsoring a resolution to constitute the House of Representatives into a Committee of the Whole for the said purpose. Fariñas also said that after the briefing on Wednesday, that would be the time when congressmen will discuss whether there is still a need to hold a joint session with the Senate or not. Pinky?
Thanks a lot for that report. Joyce Ilas reporting to us over there. So now here's the question. You have the Makabayan bloc filing a resolution for a joint
Calling
session.
for a joint session.
A joint session, right, which the Senate has done. I think that was spearheaded by Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Congressman, is there going to be a conflict now that you have constituted yourself into a committee as a whole that will hear military security officials tomorrow? Or what takes precedence then once the resolution is filed for a joint session?
I don't see a conflict, actually. In fact, yan na yung dapat nang ginawa from the beginning. Those who are questioning martial law should have filed a resolution right away. I don't know why it took so long for that resolution to be filed. Pero yun yung proper way. Kasi that would be the trigger for the House to take action towards entering into a joint session with the Senate. So I don't see a conflict, actually, kasi the resolution filed by the Makabayan bloc to have a joint session will undergo the process. It will be referred to the committee. It will be
so is it still going to be referred to the Committee on Rules?
It would be referred to the Committee on Rules.
Is that going to take a while?
It depends. It's difficult to say. If the scenario is we are ending our session this Wednesday.
Exactly. That's where I was going. Is it going to be moot and academic? Today is Tuesday. You're ending it on Thursday.
On Thursday, the last day of session.
And then tomorrow, which is Wednesday, you're going to convene as a committee of the whole.
Yes. That's a crucial meeting, actually. Just like in the Senate. After they had the joint session, after they had the briefing, they filed the resolution. I think the reports, 12 senators filed the resolution to call for a joint session, meaning to say that they felt that there is a need to
convene both houses of Congress.
Yes. And that would mean na ang tingin nila, merong reason to revoke. Kasi the joint session is meant to revoke.
No, we're going to go there a little later on because that's also another argument, sir.
So what if, the scenario is, what if the briefing at the House of Representatives tomorrow, congressmen feel there is no need to revoke?
Or there's no need, to even convene come together in joint session.
Yes.
So itong tanong, Congressman, you have the Senate already saying there's a resolution calling for a joint session, and then you have members of the Makabayan bloc saying the same thing. Is it possible that the House will just ignore this until you end session on Thursday?
I think if after tomorrow's briefing there is a majority consensus that there's no need to process a
That there's no
resolution
need to
for
do
a
joint
joint
session?
session,
Wala.
even yung final ng you expect it to be voted down.
Even if final yang ng Senado,
Yes, because the House and the Senate act independently of each other.
it's as if
That's the process. I'll just go back to the constitutional provision.
Okay.
Specifically, yung sinabi na the Congress, if not in session, shall within 24 hours following such proclamation or suspension convene in accordance with its rules. The Constitution is respecting the individual rules of the House and the Senate. Because it's already provided, in the first place, it was provided by the Constitution that the House and the Senate shall have the power to make its own rules. And this line in Section 18 about martial law points to respecting those rules.
Yeah.
So ibig sabihin, kung paano kami how we enter into a joint session
It's up to you.
is provided for under the rules.
Yeah. It's
so
up to
yun
the
ang
House.
susundin natin.
Yeah, but then it's up to...
Kung hindi namin ipinasa yung resolution calling for a joint session, kahit na pinasa ng Senate, wala rin.
Hindi. So now let's go to this situation. You have 23 senators. I'm not saying that all of them want a joint session. You have 293. How many are you?
I don't remember
Let's put
the
it at
number.
less than 300.
Less than 300.
Congressmen. Are we certain that one vote in the Senate is equal to one vote of a congressman?
Well, if we're voting jointly, it's that. The one legislator, one vote.
What about this?
As an institution, of course, the Senate would be outnumbered.
What about this? A resolution coming from the Senate, does that hold more ground or more water than a resolution, a dead resolution in the House of Representatives? Let's say you guys vote in the House, the Makabayan bloc, that
We vote down their
yeah, you
resolution.
deny this. But the Senate resolution on convening them in a joint Congress holds. What happens next?
Well, nothing. In a bicameral system, the vote of the sense of the Senate as an institution is equal to the sense of the House as an institution. So it has to be a conjugal decision to enter into a joint session. Kung ayaw nung isa, kahit gusto nung isa,
Did it say anywhere there that in the Constitution that if one House disagrees, that the other one's request or resolution
Well, I'm
will
looking
be
at that
ignored?
line that I pointed out.
The House rules.
That it's with regard to convening, it will be in accordance with the rules.
Yeah, but that could be your rule, the House rule, and there
Exactly.
could be a Senate rule.
Exactly. There are two separate rules.
So who wins in a situation like this? Who takes the upper ground? Who takes precedence? Who is the majority?
Well, just like an ordinary bill, when you file a bill in the Senate
Yeah.
and in the House, if either institution does not
Blocks it.
pass that bill,
It
it doesn't
doesn't-
become law. That's the legislative process. So all actions of the legislative branch is under that legislative process.
So if we're looking at comparing it to the legislative process, the declaration of martial law and anything that comes with it should also follow the legislative process that
Yes,
you're talking about.
Yes, because that is what
As provided by in the rules. We're going to talk about another point you raised. You were saying something about martial law also, because there's still so many aspects of this to talk about. Must you come into joint session, or should you just convene in joint session if you want to reject martial law? We're going to talk about that after the break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Still to come, we're going to get an update from Ground Zero in Marawi with our correspondent there, George Cahiles, and of course, Congressman Ruffy Biazon will still be with us. And later, these so-called therapy dogs can make your air travel hassle-free. That's for today's In Focus. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, House Committee Vice Chairman on National Defense, Congressman Ruffy Biazon. Before we go back to our guest, let's first go straight to Ground Zero. That's Marawi City. Our George Cahiles is there. George, what's the latest?
Well, slowly and surely, our government troops are advancing to the known layers of Maute Group here in Marawi City. They are bombarding these armed men through ground and air strikes here in Marawi City. Now, the efforts to rescue those people that are trapped within the conflict zone continue. And also, we were able to check downtown Marawi and we saw the horror of war. Those damages inflicted by the firefight since day one of this crisis. That's Tuesday last week. Now, also, we saw burned houses. There are also some damaged infrastructure and, of course, dead bodies. Now, authorities also raided houses of known Maute members here in Marawi City. And, for instance, the Philippine Marines were able to recover high-powered firearms, communication devices. Also, they were able to get uniforms of both the military and the police in the area. And, of course, ISIS flag. And PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa is expected to arrive here in Marawi City anytime to check the situation of his men here in Marawi. Pinky.
Thanks a lot, George Cahiles, reporting to us from Marawi City. Before we go to the martial law provisions, other provisions in the martial law declaration, just wanted to go back to the Makabayan block resolution.
Yes.
You and your last day is on Thursday. Just to be very clear about it, is there still time for them for this joint resolution that will be filed today?
It's a 50-50 chance. No? Tomorrow's briefing, if after the briefing, members of the House, a majority of the members of the House say that there is reason for us to proceed with that resolution, then we can tackle it.
When?
But, tomorrow afternoon or Thursday, but if the majority says there's no reason, then we will just end our legislative calendar as scheduled.
You can't extend? Is there a possibility even that
That's
you might
the next
extend?
question. Will the leadership allow and call for an extension?
I think it's fair
for us to reconvene. That would fall under this provision of if Congress is not in session.
But let's go first to the first. First, you're saying that there needs to be a majority vote on this.
Yes.
If you get the majority vote, then you have to realize and think whether you can extend. Tama? But it starts with step one, which is if they get a majority. And if they get a majority vote. Otherwise, that's why you're saying it's a 50-50. But frankly, is there a chance?
My gut feel there is that we will end our legislative calendar as scheduled.
And we were talking about the declaration, of course, of martial law. I just wanted to bring in the provisions there because it also says that Congress may revoke. Now, this is again an argument. Should you guys convene together? Is it mandatory? Or must you only convene if you want to revoke? There it is. The President, as Commander-in-Chief, may, in case of invasion, yan po, yung rebellion, or when the public safety requires it, suspend the privilege of writ of habeas corpus or place the country under martial law. And then the next line is that Congress...
It talks about the need for the President to submit a report within 48 hours.
Either in person
or
a written.
And after he submits, the Congress may... by voting jointly. May. So it doesn't require us.
So that's very clear to you.
Because this provision, to me, my reading is really if Congress decides or Congress wants to revoke, then it will enter into a joint session to vote jointly, because that's the only opportunity for us to vote jointly, because we are separate chambers.
What's the operative word there, Congressman? The may?
The may, yes.
It didn't say should.
Yes,
if it said should convene,
yes, should convene,
that's a different story.
To consider, because the Constitution cannot say you should convene to revoke, because that's already deciding before Congress even takes action.
But here's the question. How do you know that you want to revoke it? How do you know that your members want to revoke it?
We have to listen first. We have to know something about it before we say.
So why can't you just convene both houses of Congress so you know the sentiments of the senators and the congressmen if they want to revoke it or not?
Well, the process is you have to initiate at the respective house. You have to initiate
separately.
action separately. Kaya nga kailangan meron munang concurrent resolution.
But it never said
House-
there. It never said that there has to be a concurrent resolution, right?
Well, I go to that line that I pointed
The
out.
House
That
rules.
convene in accordance with its rules.
Yeah. Okay, that's where. In a way, was it a little? Is it a little confusing, or is it very clear
To me,
to you?
it's very clear. I'm not a lawyer, but as a legislator who's been serving for quite some time, that is my reading of what the Constitution says.
And you confirm you are for the declaration of martial law in Mindanao, the whole of Mindanao, sir?
I think it was right. It was an appropriate action to declare martial law to address the Marawi City problem. Declaring it for the entire Mindanao, I think it was a tactical move. And I think it's important at the first stages of the crisis. But to prolong it, I think we have to reconsider that.
Are you at all worried with what the president said when he said the Supreme Court or Congress, I will listen to my men, the military on the ground? In a way,
Yes,
that turned into the possibility of the president maybe possibly ignoring Congress or even the Supreme Court. How do you assess what he said?
Yes, that would, if those words are put into action, I think it would be violative of the Constitution, because you cannot ignore Congress, you cannot ignore the Supreme Court, because the Constitution says they have a part in this.
But how do you assess the president's statement?
Well,
Him
I think there
saying
has
it.
been a clarification by Malacanang. So,
By Secretary
let's set
Ernesto
that aside.
Abella. So
already, yes.
let's just leave that as it is. So what about just another thing that the president said on, that rape, let's call it a joke, if it's a joke or if it's not, number one. Is rape ever a joke? Should
No, it should never be a joke.
So even if the president meant it as a joke, you don't agree?
It's a joke that shouldn't have been said, especially under the circumstances.
Okay, so just so we're very clear on this, let's listen again to what the president said.
But for this martial law and the consequences of martial law and the ramifications of martial law, I and I alone would be responsible. Trabaho lang kayo. Ako na bala. Ako na ang magpakulong sa inyo. Pag nagka-rape ka ng 3, aminin ko na akin yun.
Obviously, when you look at the president's face, he was pretty much, it's not for us to assess, but it could possibly be that he was joking. But then again, you're saying that rape is never a joke.
It's never a joke, and it's a serious matter that we take seriously in our pronouncements. And again, going to the circumstances that we have martial law, where the Filipinos have had a nightmare experience under martial law. It's something that we should really be circumspect when we talk about it. And yung sinabi ni Presidente na he and he alone is responsible. If martial law turns sour and Congress does not take action, I would say that we are also responsible for that. Because there is a provision in the Constitution which says we should revoke it.
Exactly.
We have the power to revoke it.
Well, that's the reason.
If we see na merong abuses and we don't do our part, then we are responsible as well.
That, I guess, of course, was the wisdom of that particular provision
Exactly.
in the Constitution.
Exactly.
It was a 1935 Constitution which Marcos used to declare martial law. 1986, there was a CONCOM, you have members, and they wanted to make sure that there were limitations and checks and balances in the martial law provision, which you and the Supreme Court would be responsible. Pero kay inyo kasi, motu proprio, the Supreme Court can only act once a petition is filed.
If somebody takes action.
Before the court.
Yes.
I also wanted to bring this in, Congressman. Marawi City, the AFP is saying it's under control. What are your thoughts? Because you're also tweeting about this. You showed pictures that when you were young, you were actually in Marawi. Because of your father,
Yes,
he
was assigned there. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how you feel about the situation, ground zero, all yung mga kababayan po natin na naiipit, yung iba nakalaya na po?
Well, I grew up being raised by a military man, and I've seen conflict. And it's really a human tragedy, what we're seeing now. And if there's anyone who wants to stop the fighting, it's the soldier, but it's their duty to fight. No, kaya yung nakikita natin ngayon na labanan, syempre gusto natin matapos agad. And the government, the AFP, the PNP should win decisively immediately. So we should put in all our support to help them perform their jobs. It would be to our best interest na magawa nila yung trabaho nila no, para matapos na agad ito.
Congressman, what's your assessment on a good time, a time frame for them to finish this?
Well, considering that it's supposed to be in Marawi City alone, it shouldn't last probably a month, no? Pero ang worrisome dyan, no, kasi we've seen fighting for several days. Parang hindi nauubusan.
1 week na
O parang hindi nauubusan yung kalaban ng bala at saka ng tao. Kasi ilan na ba yung reported na killed na Maute Group? Di ba? Parang more than 60 yata. And meron pa rin continuous intense fighting. Meron tayong airstrikes. We're using all our assets. So ibig sabihin ganun katindi yung labanan. So kung tumagal pa to ng tumagal, ang nasa isip na natin, Maute Group na lang ba to? Kasi meron tinatawag sa Mindanao, no, yung pintakasi, which is yung sympathetic na pakikipaglaban ng fellow, ng brother Muslims. So lumalabas yun dun sa sphere ng Maute Group alone. So that's a cause for concern. Kasi kung
Andiyan na ho ba sila?
No, yung pintakasi, it's a problem.
Andiyan na ho ba?
I don't know yet. No?
Okay.
But that's why I'm looking forward to the briefing by the military because these are some of the questions that I will be asking them.
Congressman Ruffy Biazon, sir, thank you again for being here. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. When we come back, want to make your travel hassle and stress-free? These dogs can be the answer. That's for today's In Focus.